Good evening and welcome back. In our last tutorial we went ahead and set up the movement for our character to actually be able to attack. So if I drop this down, you can see I can attack and move around. And we also went ahead and created our sword and our texture map for a sword. We're going to go ahead and import those this time. And we'll go ahead and set up the mechanics of the sword, and then we'll go ahead and make it pretty, because I know you guys really want to see how the sword works, so I'll go ahead and do that. To import the sword, I'll just go down to I should have a mesh folder, I do. And this is my regular mesh. I'm going to go ahead and make a new static mesh folder. So I'll do static mesh, and I'll drop that to content, move here. And I'll rename this one Skeletal Mesh. So I'll do Skeletal Mesh. Cool. Click Save All. Alright, let's import our static mesh. Classes should be the sword. There it is. SM sword. We're going to uncheck Auto Generate Collision. You'll see why later. We don't want any collision coming on. And we don't really have a material attached to the object, so I'm going to say no and no. And actually, something we didn't do in the last tutorial was separate the colors. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that real quick, and I'll show you why. We'll go back to Maya. It's easier if we separate each of our segments into a different color. So I'm going to go up to UVs, UV Editor, and I'm just going to very quickly faces. I'll select the sword blade, and then in rendering, I'll just throw on a color. I'll just call this blade. I'll grab the guard, throw on a color. I'll call this guard, and then for the handle, I'm going to do a color and then also call this guard handle. So the reason I'm doing this is when we go back to Unreal, we can give each one of these its own material and control each part of it separately. So let's go ahead and re-export, export selection. I'll just export over the old sword. Yeah. So go down to the sword. This time I will check the materials. We don't have any textures on there, so you can bring them in if you want to, but there's nothing attached. And I'll just hit import. No collision. And then hit import. Bam, it came in with 3 materials, which is great. And I'm also going to grab the texture that I created. And this is the sword texture and then the handle mask. And open those. Alright, so now that we have all this in, we'll be able to do this. Remember, I'm not going to set up the color just yet. I'm going to do the actual actor for the sword. To get the sword to be sword-like, make sure we save this. We want to create an actor, so I'll go to Blueprints. I'll make a new folder for weapons. And there I'll just put the blueprint class. This will be an actor. I'll just call this sword. If you have a different type of sword, like a flaming sword or an ice sword, you just name it here. You can call it sword blueprint if you want to, if it helps you. I'm going to open up our blueprints. I will add our static mesh. So static mesh. Again, I'll call this sword. And I will attach my sword to it. There we go. And there it is. Ready and raring to go. So we're going to make 2 different swords. One to pick up, and the other one is to actually hold in the character's hand. This one's going to be in the character's hand. So just go ahead and hit compile. And everything's good to go here. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to right click and duplicate. This one is going to be sword pickup. So I'll just say sword pickup. Inside this one, go to the graph, and I will add the boundary box. I'll say collision. And then whatever you want to use for him to collide with, I'm just going to use a box. I'll just scale it to the appropriate size. And if it's easier to see how this is from straight on, you can go to like a top view. And then scale at your leisure. Good enough on all sides. Go back to perspective. That's probably plenty of space. Oops, I don't want to rotate. Go back to our event graph. I know I'm moving around pretty quick. I'm just trying to keep the video short. I do have a tendency to be a bit lengthy. I'm going to keep the event overlap. It's going to talk to our box collision. Let's go ahead and drag this off, and I'll go ahead and cast to, my player's name is Bubba, I think, so cast to Bubba. This way we can talk to Bubba, and we only want Bubba to pick up the sword, so just say other actor is object. Otherwise the sword could pick itself up. And then we want to go ahead and do a destroy actor, destroy actor. Now we're not quite done here. We do need to tell Bubba that it's okay for him to have the sword, and you can also set up a variable for him to check which name of the sword it is, but I'm not going to do the variable for that, but I will make a variable to check if he has it or not. So let's go to blueprints, character, open up Bubba. I'll make one that says has sword. And then I'll hit compile. By default this will be no, so it'll be false. So I'll say get, sorry, I'm back inside the sword now. I'm jumping around, I know. Get has sword. And then I'll branch this branch. So branches are just like an if statement. So if I have the sword, then I can't pick it up, so on and so forth. So I'll put the condition here. So if has sword is currently false, so I'm going to break that link. I'll do false. Then we want to set has sword. So set has sword. So false, set the sword to true, and then destroy the sword object. So that's it. So now we can pick up the sword. And we'll put the logic in Bubba to actually hold it in just a minute. So weapons, I'll put the sword object here. And we'll test that. So I should be able to walk up to the sword, dink, and now I have it. And if I put two swords in the scene, I should not be able to select both, or grab both. So here's one, and then this one I can't pick up because I already have one. Alright, I'm going to save that. Sure, I'll do demo level. Maps. Save. Okay. Let's go ahead and open up, go to our skeletal mesh. We'll go to Bubba's skeleton, I guess. You can really do this anywhere. And actually, I'm going to do it in one of his animations because it's easier to see. So I'm going to go to animations. And any pose you want, I'll do idle. This way I can see how the sword's going to rest on his body. So from here, I'll go to skeleton tree. Let's go down to, let's see, I'm going to have him be right-handed, so I'll say right wrist. And I'm going to create a socket. So I'm going to right-click on it. I'll do add socket. And it'll give me a default socket. This is right wrist socket. You can name this if you want to. If you want to name this to, you know, holding sword or whatever, you can put it there. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to deselect and then reselect. The reason I do that is so I can get the options. So now that once I select this, it refreshes, and I can get the option to preview an asset. Preview the sword, drop that in. And you can see that that is a big freaking sword, right? Kind of big. I'm going to rotate the sword into position. However, he's going to hold it when he's ready. Sure. That's cool. A little bit of a tilt is okay. Makes it look more natural. You're probably thinking, more natural? That thing's the size of a... Yeah, I know. This is why sizing matters inside of Maya. But I'm pretty sure we scaled him inside of the editor. So if I go to Bubba, viewport, and select him, he's scaled 4 1/4 of his original size. So that's why this preview asset is kind of big. It's okay, it won't be this big in the scene. It'll be closer to Bubba's size. So there's that. And then I also want one when it's put away. So I'll go up to, let's see, spine 3. It's a good spot. I'll right click, I'll create a new socket. And then on the socket, I'll right click, and you'll see that I don't have the option to add a preview asset. So I'm just going to make sure that I reselect and then come down to preview asset. I'll put the sword there as well. Sword is kind of hanging out, very big. I'm going to rotate it into the downward position. We never did create an animation for him to draw the sword, but you can create one. I'll go ahead and just move this back. And I don't want it to tilt that much, so about there. Again, this is why sizing inside of Maya is important, but it should be fine. So let's go ahead and save it. And you're not going to see the sword on him just yet. This is just the positions for where it's going to appear. I'm going to go ahead and grab my blueprint for my character. So open up Bubba. And now let's make a spot for drawing the sword. So this one's going to be, let's call this, sure, I'll do equip sword. And then this one's going to do another comment box. This one's going to see check if has sword. So this one's just going to check if we have the sword. Yeah. So I need my variable has sword, and I'm going to go ahead and get that. And this is going to run off of tick, so I'm going to go ahead and look for wherever tick is. Is tick in here somewhere? Whatever, I'll just go ahead and create one. So tick. If you can only have one tick, so if it ever tells you that you already have one, you can just drag off and do a sequence. And then from your sequence, you can add a pin for however many things you need off of tick. Just be aware that tick can get quite expensive. It's not the most efficient way of doing things. But in this case, I just have one item. So I'm going to say branch. Add this on. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure that when I have the sword, I have it equipped, but I can only equip one sword. So if has sword is true, I'm going to make a attach to component. And then my attach to component will allow me to pick an object to attach. So I'm going to come down to right here is a socket name, and I want to make sure that I attach to the correct socket. You can choose to have it in the hand or on the back when you first pick it up. Since this is the first time I'm picking it up, I'm just going to have it default to the hand. So let's go ahead and grab that. That's going to be my right wrist socket. Let's go ahead and copy that. So right wrist socket. Go ahead and paste this in here. The parent is going to be the mesh, so I'm going to drag this in. Let's move this out of the way. Going to make some more room here. And then we want a spawn actor. So spawn actor from class. That's going to go here. From our spawn actor from class, we have a few things we have to do. So let's make some more room here. We want to promote this to a variable. So we're going to say promote to variable. This is going to hold a reference of our sword so that we don't have to create one every time. So let's plug that in. I'm going to call this sword ref. The class I'm going to spawn is my sword. I don't want to spawn the sword pickup. That's what we touched to get it, but I want to actually get the sword. Collision handling, right now it's set to default. I'm going to do always spawn ignore collisions. And then I want to get actor transform. So get actor transform. Okay. So if I have the sword, I can therefore equip it. And then I'm going to actually create a new variable called, so I'll just call this can attach. Drag that in. And I will go ahead and set that. And I'll show you why you need this in a minute, but we're just going to spread this off. Going to branch this. We'll get it. So the first time we pick up the sword, we can attach, so that'll be true. So I'm going to compile to get access to that. That'll be true by default. And then after we've done all of this once, we're going to no longer be able to attach, so we'll just say no. Can attach is now false, so we won't be able to pick this up a million times. Okay, so not only can we not pick it up again, but we won't have tick resetting this value every time. So once it's in, it's in. So that should get the sword to our back. Hit compile, and I'm going to keep these relative for now and see what happens. Sometimes you have to change these depending on how you set up the object. So I'll hit play. And now if I grab one of these, it should so that's cool. It spawned it, but it didn't stick to me. Can I grab this one? No. So I'm going to go ahead and exit. And actually I have a warning here. Let's see what it says. Can't not component, cannot attach. Cool. Let's go into here. Let's just make sure that this is plugged into target. So now it's attached to me. It's way out there. You can see it's like ginormous. Again, this is why the size matters. Alright, and so what I want to do, just to make sure it's going to go where we need it to, let's go ahead and do snap to target. That'll get it in our hand. And we'll do the snap to rotation. That should get it rotating the way we want. And let's see. We'll try a snap to target on the size and see what happens. So we'll pick this up. And oh, that's awesome. So it's in the hand, it's in the right direction, and I can swing it. But it is a bit oversized. Kind of reminds me of that character. What anime was that? That was Bleach. I think it was Bleach, where he had the big sword. There's also the Kingdom Hearts or the Final Fantasy game, whatever. So the reason it's scaling up like this is our character has been scaled 4¼ times its normal size, and it's inheriting the scale from our character, which we don't want. So let's go ahead and go back into our character. We can compensate with this, or for this, by adjusting the scale of the object itself, or right here where our scale rule is, and we'll just do this as keep world. If we hit compile, Now when I grab this, dink, it should be in my hand, and I can swing it. Ah! Rawr. And of course I can't pick up anything extra. You can actually add a little tag here that says, you know, you already have this, or you can just kick it around. You can do the if you follow the heart video on how to set up the heart pickup item, you can put a boundary on here and have them just kick it every time. That's fine. So there's the sword attached. Oh, just to show you why I put this safety in, this little can attach, let's go ahead and bypass this and just shove this right into spawn. This is the reason why. So right here you can see my actor count. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. When I spawn, I have 20 actors in the scene. I'm going to go ahead and select this sword. Bink. You see that actor counter? Because every frame, it's spawning a new sword and reattaching it to the player. So I actually have a few hundred of them that you can see them all like jiggling, and then I get slow on the look how slow it's going. So you want to actually make sure that you have that safety in there to keep this from spawning an infinite number of swords. Okay, so that's in there. That's all cool. And now we want to equip the sword. So I'm going to go up here and wherever you want to put this, let's place this here. So there's my, if we have the sword, and we'll do the equip sword. I'll do this over here. So the equip sword is going to work in a similar fashion. I'm going to grab a button and then swap the sword. So let's go ahead, edit, project settings. For this to draw my sword, I'll just use the mouse button. So axis mapping, I'll just call this draw sword. So draw, you can also call it equip sword, whatever you want to do. I'll do equip sword. Yeah, equip sword. This is going to be mouse wheel, so mouse, and I'll do mouse wheel up. So equip sword. So whenever I hit the equip sword button, I'm just going to copy this piece right here. So Control W on that. We'll move this over here. So I don't need to reset this. We already have that reference set, but I do need to get a reference to it. So I'll drag the reference off and just plug it in to target. Pop this here. So this gets me to attach the sword, and this is going to go either onto my back or onto my hand. So I'm going to use a flip-flop. You can actually create a variable to check if it's equipped or not. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to do a flip-flop. And then on A, because it's already in my hand, I'm going to say on A, we want to put this in the shoulder. So I'm going to go back, get my spine 3 socket. I'm going to duplicate this because I'm just going to need that again. So for this round, spine 3 goes here. Ooh. When I duplicated that, I actually put this data in the clipboard. Let's make sure I copy that again. There we go. And then on B, it'll go back to the hand. So I can put it in the hand, take it out of the hand. I'm just going to put this here. You can clean this up however you like later. Let's just make sure it works. So now I have the sword, and if I hit the mouse, it's on my back. Hit the mouse again, it's here. Now it is on mouse up, not mouse down, so you can change it to both directions, mouse up or down. Which I'm going to do. I'm going to go over and just do input, and then I'll just add one more to my equip sword. I'll do that on this on mouse. Mouse, wheel down. So now either direction I can equip or unequip. And the distance to my back, you can always adjust that in your skeleton. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. skeleton. It would be nicer if I were working with an actual size sword, but again, you can fix that by adjusting things in Maya. But I'm just going to pull this a bit closer. That's better. And it moves with my body. I can draw it, attack with it. The next video, we're going to texture our sword. I will see you then. Okay? Go ahead and save your work, and I'll see you next time.